Hey guys, I'm John Barklow, and today I want to talk to you about liquid fuel stoves. Now, liquid fuel stoves are the workhorse of the backcountry. But unfortunately, the liquid fuel stove is kind of fallen out of favor because of the canister stove. But it's definitely got a place in your year-round backcountry quiver. Now, the liquid fuel stove runs off of something called white gas. And white gas, which you can find in North America, is gonna burn very hot and very clean. So you're not gonna have a lot of soot buildup. You're not gonna have to worry about fuel lines being clogged. International models actually will burn things like kerosene, diesel. Some models will even burn JP8 and avgas. Why is that important? Because you're not gonna be able to fly with the fuel to your destination. But if you're going to remote areas, these are areas where you can readily pick up kerosene and diesel. So you bring the bottle that comes with the fuel pump, and then you get your fuel where you're going at your destination. That is critically important for some of these more remote hunts that we like to go on. If you're melting snow predominantly for your drinking water, then a liquid fuel stove works really well. They excel in cold temperatures. They excel at altitude. Why is that? Because when you fill the fuel bottle, which is external to the stove with fuel, it actually comes with a pump. And so you're able to continue to regulate the pressure in the bottle and keep the pressure high as the stove gas burns down to keep that fuel efficiency burning all the way to the bitter end of this bottle. That is really important to maximize the amount of fuel efficiency that you're getting out of that stove. Now, a liquid fuel stove, it takes a little more to light. It's a little more involved. If you're not practiced, or sometimes if you have some clogs in the fuel jet, you can get a fireball, you can get a flame. So it's really important that you don't ever light a liquid fuel stove under a tarp, certainly never in a vestibule. You want to make sure that you're careful about that so you don't singe your eyebrows. And over time, you'll learn to light these stoves a little more efficiently to kind of limit that. But that is something that we need to consider. Now, something that's great about a liquid fuel stove if you're going on an expedition is that yes, you have to bring a cook pot to go with it, but depending on the size of the group, you can bring a small cup. Say for one person, you can bring a 2-liter pot for 2 people, or you can bring a larger cook pot, maybe for a group of 4. So that's something that you have to consider. One thing I like to do is have a cook pot that's big enough that I can take the stove and maybe a lighter and house inside that cook pot. You never want to have a cook pot that doesn't have something in it, either a lighter and a dehydrated meal, or maybe the stove and a lighter, but that's valuable cubic inches that we're packing that we want to make sure we're maximizing. The other great thing about a liquid fuel stove is that you're going to be able to repair it in the field. If you bring just a small repair kit and have a little bit of knowledge, these stoves don't have a lot of moving parts, but if you do get a clogged fuel line, if you do have a fuel jet that goes bad, you can simply repair them in the field. So for longer expeditions, remote trips, or maybe you don't have that extra stove, a liquid fuel stove is really gonna shine. But a liquid fuel stove is gonna be a little heavier. The stoves are a little bigger. You have to have fuel bottles. But I would say that that can also be a benefit. Figuring out fuel consumption for a liquid fuel stove is actually quite easy and a little easier than, say, a canister stove. So what I like to do, and I always suggest whatever stove you have, especially if it's brand new, is to burn test that stove and understand its fuel efficiency. And so what you do is you get your stove set up, you get a liter of water in a cook pot, and you time how long it takes to boil that liter of water. So say that's 2 minutes. Now set that aside and just let the stove run and burn the rest of the fuel out. Now, for a liquid fuel stove, you'll need to keep adding a few pumps to keep that efficiency, to keep this nice, efficient blue flame that we're looking for. And we want to see how long it takes to burn the rest of that fuel down. And then you can say it took me 2 minutes to boil a liter of water, and I've got X number of minutes of fuel, and you can figure out your fuel consumption. As a general rule, if it's above 32 degrees, so above freezing, and you're below 10,000 feet, you can on average get away with 4 to 6 ounces per person of fuel per day. Now, if it's below 32 degrees or you're above 10,000 feet, you should plan 6 to 8 ounces of fuel per day. So these are general guidelines, but they're actually pretty accurate. And because you're able to continue to add pressure to the fuel bottles, you can really maximize your fuel efficiency. Now, the last thing I'd say about the fuel bottle is if I bring 2 or 3 fuel bottles for a longer trip, every fuel bottle I bring has a fuel pump on it so that I'm not having to take a cap off and transfer the fuel pump and then risk spilling my fuel. This is vital fuel that I need so that I can eat that dehydrated food. When I store these in my pack, I just make sure that I store my fuel bottle away from my food bag, just in case while you're hiking around and moving around that the fuel bottle doesn't open and that you contaminate your food with some fuel. I've actually had that happen before, and I had to discard that food. I couldn't eat it. It was contaminated with white gas. So if you don't have a liquid fuel stove in your quiver of backcountry tools, I suggest that you at least consider purchasing one, especially if you're either going out in the winter or going on these more remote expeditions. They're going to be an excellent addition to your backcountry arsenal.